Hi, Darren. How are you?
I am very well. A little chilly, but good.
I know you're in Canada.
Yep. Great White North.
So I am so excited you're on. I'm going to be sponsoring you to come to San Diego to do a weekend workshop January 18th and 19th for sound healing.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you a few questions. How long have you been doing sound healing?
Yeah. So, I mean, the rational answer is I've been doing sound healing for over a decade. But, if I look back at my childhood, I was always kind of making music and making music in kind of weird, eccentric ways. I used to sing myself to sleep every night for as long as I can remember until I was a teenager. And I was always kind of in a mystical state of, for lack of better words, song channeling. I wasn't necessarily singing other people's songs or songs I'd heard on the radio. I was just like singing these songs that were coming through me. And I remember I'd go into these kind of altered states and it felt very healing. And it was very interesting too. Whenever I got sick, I would go to my bed and I would sing and I would bang my head against my pillow like a drum, and it would make me feel better. So I think I was already kind of exploring this whole realm of sound healing. But when I formally started to work with it, it wasn't until my late 20s when I was actually studying Chinese medicine. That's my background. I have a diploma in acupuncture, and I studied acupuncture in Toronto. And but I always felt like Chinese medicine wasn't totally what I was looking for, and I'd always been a musician. And then I actually went to see an astrologer for the first time in my life, and she said, "You're a sound healer. That's why you're feeling frustrated with Chinese medicine." And it was like when you're told a truth that really speaks to your heart, there's just a certain vibration that you get. And I just knew when she said that, that was what I was supposed to do. But I had no idea what sound healing even was. I just asked her, like, what is sound healing? And she said, just Google it. So I literally Googled it, and I must have stayed up for hours that night just finding all this fascinating information. And then a few days later, synchronistically, I was invited to a Crystal Bowl sound healing concert. And I saw this gentleman playing these bowls and these gongs, and I was literally weeping with acknowledgement, just like, wow, this is exactly the kind of musician I've always longed to be. Someone who's not an entertainer, but someone who's creating a sacred context for healing to take place. And after that, it just became a very self-initiatory journey of just like learning and experimenting. I got crystal bowls, and my entry into it was more as a space holder, as a facilitator and a performer, doing sound baths, doing concerts. And then eventually I got so knowledgeable just in my own research and such. I started teaching workshops, and then I started teaching or doing one-on-one sound therapy, especially when I started finding tuning forks and this whole sonic acupuncture, acutonics is the name of the modality. That just also gave me a huge dimensional insight into how to do one-on-ones with sound healing. And from there, it just unfolded, and now I tour the world. And it's been really amazing just to witness how the world has embraced this whole paradigm. And now, of course, I've developed this training 2 years ago, Source Resonance, where I'm actually training people to sort of have the first few steps of developing themselves as a sound healer. And I've taught 5 waves of it, and it's been really successful. And I'm really happy to see the community of students that are coming out of it, and how a lot of them are starting to really be active in the world as sound healers. It's really exciting.
So I know sound has been used for since ancient times to heal, but can you give me your version of how you use sound to heal a person? Like, what is your intention? How do you go about it? What do you teach in your classes?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge part of what I like to teach. I like to actually really give people the context of the ancient wisdom on sound healing. I've been really blessed to work with a lot of indigenous healers and elders over my years, and they've really instilled in me the honoring of ancestral traditions and the ancestors. So when I teach sound healing, I really have done a lot of research to understand, like, what were our ancestors doing with sound and the power of music. so that people can understand that this isn't just like a new agey kind of paradigm, that we have something to really pull on, something very, very old. So that's been very fascinating as well, just for me to learn about that and see all the incredible ways that sound was being used by the ancients. And then for me, how I really approach sound healing, what I'm most known for is my sound ceremonies that I do with the crystal bowls, with bunch of other cool instruments that I have, like drum, the ancient monochord. But I also am known for my singing, because I sing in a way that I'm always changing how it's called, because it's kind of a pioneered new version of sacred singing, but I just call it multidimensional singing. So it's singing without words, and it's more or less just opening my voice as a channel to make sound. And there's a lot of amazing artists who have been doing that for years even, but a lot are really stepping into it now as sound healing grows. And what I see is when I create these sound ceremonies, I'm more or less creating a space for people to really get in touch with a deeper aspect of themselves, to really go into deep states of relaxation, and from that, to enter into a mystical state of consciousness. And that may sound a little new agey, but when you look at the crystal bowls, what they're really known for is they actually have been scientifically proven to put our brainwave states into alpha wave. Now
Mhm.
we're typically in beta, which is that constant thinking, what the yogis call the monkey mind. And when you get into alpha, it's kind of like the first stage of meditation. And that can give people a real sense of like coming home into themselves. They can really relax. And in our modern life, just getting anyone into the state of relaxation is a boon, because that's where a lot of self healing happens. But
Mhm.
then what's really exciting to me is like after you get into alpha, if you really stay in that and you allow yourself to go even deeper, you can enter into what's known as theta brainwave state. And theta brainwave state is when we actually have visions, meaningful images, scenes, usually a lot of relevant wisdom that will come to us seemingly from nowhere. But of course, the ancient mystics would say it's coming from like a higher dimension, a more spiritual world. And to me, that can be a really incredible experience for people to have a visionary experience and such. Um, and I really feel like the mystical is, as Bob Marley said, there's a natural mystic flowing through the air. I think as this spiritual awakening is becoming more powerful on the planet, people are realizing, that the matrix of our reality in our Western civilization, it's quite a narrow bandwidth, of consciousness, and people are craving to like go beyond that. Whether it's doing a yoga class or a breathwork workshop or even plant medicine ceremonies, people are really craving having a more enhanced state of consciousness. And it's not very hard to do, and music and sound has always been utilized for that, actually, and it's very, very effective and almost immediate at creating those states.
Right. We are in such beta state, as you just said, like
Yeah,
constantly doing out here, that just slowing down and trying to meditating sometimes doesn't like it takes a long time, but with sound people get into it right away, right?
yeah, right away.
Yeah,
Like the minute that
absolutely.
crystal bowl is being played,
It's like,
it's
"Woo."
immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was actually on a Vice TV episode for this show called Mr. Tachyon, where they do like really on the fringe spiritual science stuff. And I actually had clients that I was working on hooked up to medical devices so we could actually see this in action. And it was immediate. Like the minute the crystal bowls were played, people were like, boom, into alpha state, into relaxed response. So the crystal bowls, especially, are really remarkable instruments.
So are crystal bowls your main thing? No gongs?
I have a gong. I have two gongs now.
I
I
love gongs too.
Yeah, gongs are. I'm really deep into gongs right now, actually. I'm on a bit of a personal sadhana where I'm doing 45 minutes of gong meditation a day. Um, because, when I get an instrument, I like to do, in the whole plant medicine world, they talk about dietas, where you work with a plant for like a month to really get to know the consciousness of it. So I kind of see that. I go through dietas with my instruments, and I've just recently got these two planetary gongs. They're really next level. They have these cosmic vibrations. And I sit in front of this big Saturn gong and just like really go into the vibrations. And it's
Yeah,
been extraordinary.
right. Right. Okay, so the next question is, how is your workshop different than other sound healing workshops? There's quite a few out there right now, and I want to just get an idea. People come in, what are you offering that's special, different, besides the fact that you have a lot of knowledge and experience in your own unique way?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the reasons that people are called to work with me is I have developed a very unique artistry around working with the bowls and that kind of channeled singing. And I'm a very good space holder, I think. And I think people are really drawn to that because so much of working with sound is this sort of sound bath experience that has become so popular. But with a sound bath, you really have to realize there's quite a lot to architecting the space for people to really journey, and especially the artistry that's involved with performing sound healing instruments such as the crystal bowls. I'm seeing a lot of people sort of just diving in, buying crystal bowls, and then assuming they're a sound healer just because they purchased these extraordinary instruments. But then I see some of these people playing them and they're not playing it with sensitivity and there's no musicality there. And it can actually have the opposite effect, it can be very abrasive and, the opposite of healing in a certain way. So I think that's something that I bring to the fold is just really getting people into what I call the path of the sacred musician. And I've written about that. I've had a few articles published in Elephant Journal on that subject. And that's really important to me is to get people to realize that as a musician, you can step into this role of being a sacred space holder and using this art in a very sacred way. And then the other thing I think that is unique about my training is that ancient wisdom. I really get people to connect to that. I build an altar to the muses in each workshop and training, and we do some connection work with that to sort of have that acknowledgement that we're going to connect with these ancient lineages and bring them into our present field, so that we can have that support, from those ancestral spirits. I think that's very important. And the last thing I'll say is that I think every sound healing training, because there's so much artistry involved, I think the beauty of it is that everyone's going to get, I think, something different from the being who's facilitating the training. I've had people come to my training who've done other sound healing trainings, and I've had people take my training and then go to other people's. I think everyone's got a really nice, interesting nuance that's going on. But yeah, I think the experience that I've been, working at this for over 10 years, and I've done so many sound baths and sound ceremonies all over the world. I think that puts me at a state of kind of authority for people, that they feel comfortable that they're going to get something out of these trainings, which makes me feel good because that's the whole point.
Hey, is this your first time coming to San Diego?
No, well, actually, I was in Encinitas this past January, so almost a year ago. I didn't make it actually into San Diego, so it will be my first time, yeah, but my second time in California.
Nice. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Well, just to say for those out there who are maybe watching this, who have interest, this Source Resonance Sound Healing Weekend, it will be a really nice introductory overview, but there'll be lots of points where we go really deep as well. So we'll nurture people of all different levels, whether someone's coming into it just out of being an enthusiast into spirituality, or someone who's even already a dedicated sound healer. I think I'm very good at being flexible and speaking to the needs of the group before me. So I think it's going to be a really next level experience. And then I also like to focus on providing some holistic art, such as the shaking medicine. And we're going to be doing a bit of an ecstatic dance within the training as well. Because I really like to empower people with getting into an uninhibited space so they can be really creative, especially if they're looking to be an improvised kind of channeled musician. And we're just gonna have fun. I like to be very playful. We're gonna do some vocal games. And I really love to just really get a bonded group energy going on. And that's one of the strengths, I think, out of my trainings, is that there's real communities that are built from them, because I really like to get people working together and feeling that kind of solidarity. In the sense that, sound healers, I think we are playing a very significant role. As Fabian Mammon, who's one of the elder sound healers. He's from France, but I think he lives in Malibu now. He writes and talks a lot about how musicians and artists and sound healers really are on the forefront of the shifts of consciousness because they're the sensitives who really feel things vibrationally.
Mhm.
And the sound healing music that they evoke is really like the first wave of shifting and tuning the masses to be really evolving in this perpetual transformation that we have on this beautiful planet Earth, where we're always growing, always going to next levels of consciousness. So I really try to instill in people that, being a sound healer is a very sacred calling, and it's something that can really be fulfilling in one's life. And you can offer a great, great gift and boon to the world. There's so much that I think sound healers can offer, and that's why it's such a popular art and paradigm right now.
Right. It is. I'm
Hmm.
so excited to have you.
Dude, yeah, woohoo!
And I will see you soon in
See you
January.
soon, Linda. Yeah, may the source be with you, as I like to say.
Yes. Take care.